Hi again, everybody. Time for another episode of Ask the Lawyer. Today, we're going to ask what you should do if you're riding your bicycle and you're in an accident with an automobile. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. My guest today is attorney Claude Wyle of the firm Cholos & Wyle, based in San Francisco. Claude, thank you for making some time to answer our questions today. I appreciate it.
Good to be here with you, Rob.
All right, so someone's riding their bicycle. They're involved in an accident with a vehicle. I'm guessing that's different than if it's two vehicles. What do they need to do? First of all, if they have automobile insurance, does that cover them? Is that all they need there?
Well, it's not all they need, but the good news is that automobile insurance does cover a cyclist, especially if they're hit by an uninsured or an underinsured driver. The sad part of today's society is too many people are striking bicyclists and running away. The rate of hit and run with bicyclists is higher than it is with cars, and it's higher than it is than pedestrians.
Wow.
The good news is, if you are on your bicycle and you have your own car insurance and you have uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, it will cover you in the event of a hit and run, and it will cover you in the event that you're hit by someone with very low insurance. So that's good news. The bad news is, to get compensated for your injuries, you're really going to need a lawyer who knows their way around the dynamics of bicycle collisions. The dynamic of bicycle collisions are very, very different than car collisions or truck collisions or pedestrian collisions. Bicyclists, we know they live in a world all their own sometimes, and the bicycle accident world is also quite different. You need a specialist who knows their way around, because you need to be able to discuss the options that a bicyclist had and why the bicyclist is probably not at fault for the collision. Most bicycle car collisions are the fault of the automobile or truck driver.
Would you say most automobile drivers don't know all the laws surrounding with rights of way and that sort of thing, and how they should treat bicycles in traffic?
It's really unfortunate, Rob. I think the drivers in our community, especially as the world gets more congested, and our city of San Francisco is very congested, they just don't understand that we all have to work together and we have to coexist. Drivers of motor vehicles think the roads have been created for motor vehicles. They don't think that the bicyclist has the same rights and the same duties as an automobile or a truck or a bus. So because of that, really the bicyclist has to look after their own health more than other vehicles. The law considers a bicycle a vehicle in California, just like any other vehicle, but the drivers, the motorists, don't necessarily do so.
When we've talked about motorcycle accidents with you before, Claude, you've pointed out that injuries for motorcycle riders tend to be severe when they are injured when they strike a vehicle, for obvious reasons. They don't have that car protecting them. Do you find the same thing with bicycle riders? When they are injured, they're pretty severe injuries?
Very much so. The injuries for bicycle riders are far more severe than, obviously, if you're sitting in a cage, as the bicyclists call them. If you're sitting surrounded by steel, you're far less likely to get hurt. Whereas if you're on a bicycle, a little bump by a car could send you into a pole, could send you down to the pavement. You can hit a parked car. I'm working on a case right now where a poor guy got doored, and the door knocked him into a parked car that he hit with his face.
Oh.
So he wasn't traveling more than 12 miles an hour. The car was stopped, but he's pretty severely injured. He's got a head injury, and he's got scars on his face in what would have been a very, very minor bump between two cars.
When you say door, does that mean someone opened their door right in his path? Is that what that is?
Right. That is a very common source of bicycle accident. Most drivers forget to give a look-see, to look in their mirror, to look over their shoulder, to double check before they open the door that there's not a bicyclist between their car and maybe the parked cars, or if the car is parked, between their car and the lane of traffic that's moving. And often there will be a bicyclist doing exactly what they're supposed to do, and that is to ride as far right as practicable. And so when a door opens and a bicyclist is caused to crash because of an opening door, that is legally a violation of the bicyclist right of way. That is 100% the operator of that door's fault, whether it's the driver's child in the back seat, whether it's a taxi and it's the passenger. The driver is responsible for making sure their passengers don't swing doors open into the path of a bicyclist. That is all too common and actually a terrible source of injuries for bicyclists.
You mentioned a little bit ago underinsured and uninsured motorist protection on your insurance. Is that required in California, or is there different levels, or is it voluntary?
Well, if you have a car and you have car insurance and you have uninsured, underinsured, you're going to be covered when you're riding as a bicyclist. But in this city, many people don't even have cars, and the bicycle is their main mode of transportation. So if they don't have a car, they usually don't have insurance.
Right.
So although it does cover you, you have to have car insurance in order to be covered if a door hits you or if a car hits you. If you have a motorcycle and a bicycle, I don't think motorcycle insurance covers you on a bicycle.
So I don't.
So you either have car insurance or you don't.
So I don't want to sound dense here. Can you get car insurance even if you don't have a car?
There are types of insurance where you can obtain a policy. It's called a non-owner policy, where you can drive anybody's car and you are insured even if that car is not. If you have that kind of policy, you can also get uninsured motorist coverage, which would cover you if you were hit as a pedestrian or a bicyclist. It doesn't cover you if you're hit as a motorcyclist, because for motorcycles, you need specific motorcycle insurance.
So let's talk about what happens right after the accident, Claude. What do I need to do now? And let's assume there's injuries. Maybe there's injuries bad enough I'm transported in an ambulance. What needs to be done? How quickly how do I know if I need to contact an attorney like yourself, and how quickly does that need to happen?
Well, if you're transported by an ambulance, that's a serious injury, and you need to contact a bicycle lawyer right away. The scene needs to be preserved. The evidence needs to be preserved. Your bike needs not to be fixed before it can be inspected and adequate photographs are taken. And by the scene, when a bicycle goes down, it often leaves some skids, but it mostly leaves scrapes on the pavement. Those scrapes on the pavement go away very fast. Your bicycle is an important element of evidence. The police have probably grabbed your bicycle. It may be at the police station. That bicycle has to be recovered. It has to be recovered in a way that it's not been changed. We had one case where the defendant trucking company accused us of altering the evidence, even though we had documented the move of the bicycle from the scene to the police department, from the police department to our investigator, and then to our experts' hands, and then to our office. This was a nighttime collision between a truck and a bicyclist, where the bicyclist was actually run over by the truck, suffering terrible injuries. And the first thing the trucking company did was to say he didn't have a light. Well, we showed that he did have a light, and we proved it. And also we did so by enhancing the photographs that were taken by the police at the scene. I won't go into the details and bore everybody with that, but had we not looked at this case at that level of detail, the trucking company probably would not have paid this individual, and they did at the end of the day.
Let's talk about, what is your opinion of bike safety laws in California? Do you think they're stringent enough? Have there been any recent changes that have changed the bike safety laws?
Well, in the last couple of years, we have had a great change, and that is the 3-foot law. It used to be that drivers could basically just decide what was reasonable, how close they could pass a bicyclist. Was it too close, too far? It was up to the driver whether it was reasonable under those circumstances. But now we have a law, and the law says if you do not have 3 feet of clearance between the right side or passenger side of your car and the bicyclist, then you cannot pass. You've just got to let the bicyclist proceed, and you've got to hang back and wait for the bicyclist to proceed if you cannot pass within 3 feet, or rather more than 3 feet. This is a great law for bicyclists. I think one of the main fears of all bicycle riders is getting hit from behind. We do handle those cases, and they tend to be far worse than most cases. But honestly, the most common bicycle car collision is a car that turns left right in front of a bicyclist. For some reason, the drivers who are taking a left know that they have to give the right of way to a car, to a truck, to a bus, most of the time to a motorcyclist. But when bicyclists are coming, the cars just take a left either right into them or right in front of them anyway. That is the most common. But the most feared collision is getting hit from behind. And this 3-foot law has been a real move in the right direction. Other moves in the right direction are in San Francisco. They're trying to improve the infrastructure, because the less places you have interaction between bicyclists, pedestrians, and motor vehicles, the better you are. So the more bicycle paths you have, the less cars that are allowed to be in the bicycle path, the more raised bicycle paths, the more separation you have, the safer the bicyclists are going to be. Because as we just discussed a minute ago, drivers of motor vehicles don't really think the bicyclists have the same rights to the road that the motorists do. And I mean, ask any cab driver. They say these roads are made for cars. They're not made for bicyclists, and they better get out of my way. Well, that's not the case. But there's a caveat. Although bicyclists are vehicles in the vehicle code and they have the same rights as anybody in a motor vehicle, they also have the same obligations under the law. So that means they have to obey the law. And bicyclists are not always their best friends in terms of making friends with jurors and judges and the opinion of the public at large. We see, I mean, on the way here, I saw several bicyclists running red lights, running stop signs, getting too close to pedestrians. All of this adds up in the public perception that bicyclists are scofflaws, outlaws, renegades, and it's not always the case. It's usually not the case. Bicyclists are usually people who are trying to reduce congestion by commuting on an alternate source of transportation. They want to reduce congestion. It increases their health by exercising at least to work and back.
Right.
And also it decreases pollution in our city and also in the countryside. So what bicyclists are doing is a good thing, and they deserve to be covered under the same protection of the law. But they have to understand that because they're vehicles, they've got to obey the law. And a lot of times they just don't. Most of my bicycling cases have an element of the bicyclist doing something wrong, a little bit wrong, comparatively negligent. And that's something we have to combat.
You've helped so much and with so much information today, Claude, as usual. I appreciate your help, and thanks for answering our questions.
Well, thanks for asking me. I really I have more to say on the subject of bicycling and accidents and bicycle interaction in a city, and I'll be happy to give another interview in the near future.
We will do that. I look forward to it. Thank you, Claude.
Thanks, Rob.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been attorney Claude Wyle of the firm Cholos, Wyle in San Francisco. If you want the best information about bicycle accidents and the law, or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, please visit AskTheLawyers.com. Also, please take a second, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the button at the bottom of the screen. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com.